It's the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbikes at Road Atlanta. It's our first round of 9 for 2024 in Braselton, Georgia at the famed Michelin Raceway. Road Atlanta Supersport Race number 2 is here. And boy, what a difference a day makes. Hello everyone and welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, yesterday was a bit unexpected, and not only did we have beautiful sunshine, but Ty Scott, who was really the favorite, I think, coming into this championship, had a bit of a miscue.
I think when you walk around the paddock on Thursday, people were already talking about Ty Scott possibly winning this championship because of the advancements that M4's made on that GSX-R 750. However, he made a mistake while leading the race yesterday, Greg, up at the top of turn 2-3 area. A very uncharacteristic mistake by this young man. So it's going to put him a little bit on his back foot, but we got to remember this is only the first race of the season. There are a lot of races left. This kid's very seasoned as well, and he's a tough competitor. So he'll be winning his share of races this year.
Yeah, and this is Supersport, which is now one of the next generation classes we have in the world. And obviously the GSX-R 750 now is getting deep into its development cycle, and they're really producing a good motorcycle. But Jay, let's go back to yesterday where the sun was shining and take a look at what happened in race number 1. Yeah,
well, for sure. When you start talking about the race yesterday, that number 15 on that yellow Ducati, PJ Jacobsen, I don't think that there's anybody more seasoned in this field than that young man right there from World Superbike and things. He was the guy that Ty Scott was trying to get away from, and you see him having to go over the rumble strips along with Corey Alexander, Max Girardo, and Matthew Schultz. That would make it to where there was 4 riders battling at the front. Schultz was the man of the hour yesterday, the way he moved through the field, Greg. He came from a long way back, ran all the leaders down, but at the end, the 15 got back to the front, did PJ Jacobsen, and you see him and Blake Davis. Both of these guys went back and forth throughout the last few laps of this race. PJ was finally able to clear it barely and beat Blake Davis and Matthew Schultz to the line.
So PJ Jacobsen with a big win, and here's a look inside PJ Jacobsen. Of course, he was in the Superbike category last year where he finished 3rd, Jay, 6th in the 2022 championship, and you can see that PJ has raced. He's raced all over the world. He's raced huge championships. He's won all over the place. One of the most talented racers that we have in the field. Now let's get to the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, who's down on a wet track, and she has someone very special with her. Hannah?
I do, Greg. Aboard a brand new manufacturer, the MV Agusta, in the Supersport class this season is Roberto Tamburini, a new face on the grid. Roberto, how was your debut weekend in MotoAmerica?
Yeah, it's all new for me in MotoAmerica. I am improving step by step, day by day. Of course, we did a good race tomorrow. For me, it was better to race in dry condition to improve a little bit, but anyway, in this condition, we will try to do our best and bring at home the best result possible.
What is your experience and your background running in the rain, and how have you found getting up to speed in the rain at a new track for you?
But normally, I don't race a lot in rain condition. So today, for me, it will be a new experience in general because for me, as I said, it's all new. But we try to do our best. It's all a process, no? To grow up together, especially during the season, will be more competitive for sure.
Best of luck out there, Roberto Tamburini, you guys.
Yeah, so much fun to be around, and of course, new series for him, new class, new motorcycle, but quite a talented motorcycle racer in his own right, Jay, and we're going to see what he does on these Dunlop rain tires coming up. But Jay, it's wet and it's up and down here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's challenging.
You know, the good news is the rain it's a very light rain. As they head down to turn 1, you'll see some puddles on the track up that big steep hill. Again, 2, 3, 4. Important to get through those clean on these opening laps. And you do not want to get on the grass or that red clay. As you come out of turn 7, that's where you're going to see a lot of spray because these bikes are going to be at full stick all the way down that back straightaway, Greg, and of course, turn 10. So many races have been won and lost in that turn 10 and 11 section. You come up over in that bridge between 11 and 12, hard braking into 12, and then to the start-finish line. You know, and the thing about Road Atlanta, Greg, is there's so many hills. If the wind can blow a little bit, it'll dry out fairly quick.
Yeah, so that could pose a very interesting scenario for these riders that are all going to start on rain tires. But how about this guy? Maxi Girardo from Uruguay. He finishes 5th place yesterday. And Jay, this guy is so fast. Can't wait to tell you his race resume on his Top Pro racing machine.
And coverage continuing here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. As you see Teague Hobbs there on that number 79 Suzuki from Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki. Roger, it's still raining. It's still raining, but it kind of looks like it's let up a little bit, but every time it does that, it starts raining again. And we talk about, you know, how mentally focused you have to be during this race. The track can change if it does stop raining. The track will start to dry out some toward the end of the race, and you know things are going to change. It's going to have more grip, so you have to be really focused. But also, it could start raining more, so you just got to really be locked in. And you know, talking about PJ, he has seen all track conditions, so he'll be ready for it. And it's going to be interesting to see. We haven't seen all these guys out together in the wet. We've seen the warm up, but we haven't seen them out during a race. When you saw that weather, the radar that was on the screen just a moment ago, and if you were looking to the tail end of it, this system that we've had all morning, there is an end in sight, and potentially the end of this race could start to dry out, but the Superbike race right now, it looks like it might be dry. And also, too, when the track does start to dry out, you know, then you have to start worrying about the rain tires because they are super soft. And if the track does start to dry out, I think with the puddles, Supersport will be okay. But this track is going to change as this race goes on, and you're going to keep up with it. Fans all around the racetrack here at Road Atlanta have been braving out these conditions. We haven't had any storms, no thunder, no lightning. It's just been rain, but they've been here all morning through all of it, and they've stuck it around, and you're going to get some great racing. Yeah, great racing, and it's just been consistent all day, so that for the riders, they've seen the track the way it is. And you see all the fans out there, you know, it's we love seeing you. We love you coming around, even in these wet conditions, here to cheer these guys on. And I know the riders love coming through Road Atlanta, and they look around on those warm-up laps or those cool-down laps, and they see all the fans up there. They appreciate it. There's Tyler Scott, the pole sitter that we talked about earlier on. Our pole sitter had the issues during the race yesterday. For him, Roger, to be able to get out in morning warm-up and see the track in these conditions and try to just brush it off, how important is that? That's huge, and more importantly, just try to get out there and get his confidence back. I mean, that was a fast crash. Those are the ones that can ding your confidence quite a bit. When you go up to, you know, really fast like that, you hit the ground before you even know it. But for him to be able to go out there this morning and get some laps in and try to rebuild that confidence. And now Tyler, he's young, but he's got a little bit of experience now. And he's got a good team around him, and that's when you got to lean on all the people around you when you come through adversity. And for him, yesterday's crash, you know, today's race, he knows that he needs to start making some points up, and he doesn't have to do it all today. That's the thing. Don't try to make up all the points today. Just get out of here with some points on the board after this second race. That was a great shot of the full field of Supersport riders leaving their grid positions for this warm-up lap. But as they approached turn one, Roger, what you were able to see was the amount of spray. The amount of spray, and you know, with all these riders, it's going to be a huge benefit if you're able to qualify toward the front and get a good start. And coming through here, you see the puddles there, and the way that spray comes up every time each rider comes through those puddles, and it's going to be worse after the start. Yeah, kudos to Reese Butler, our director, and getting all of these shots for us, and all of our cameramen all around this racetrack. Talk about the fans that have been toughing it out all day long, but they've been out there to make sure that we all have something to watch, so thank you. We're going to send it back to Greg.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Back at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, a wet racetrack, and it looks like the rain is still falling a little bit. But Jason Pridmore, why don't we have a look at the grid and see how they qualified? Ty Scott, your pole sitter at a 27.9. Then Blake Davis and PJ Jacobsen on the front row. PJ Jacobsen was almost 1.5 seconds ahead of everybody this morning in warm-up. Lewis Alexander and Gerardo will fill out row 2. Back to row 3, we're going to have Teague Hobbs, Tamburini, and Mesa, David Anthony Skoltz, and Kaylee Yakov, who was also fast this morning. She was Alfonso Linares, Nassani, Torin Collins, Taylor Knapp, Max Van back there. A little bit further back, we got LaRoche, Mag Silva, and another Silva, Seth Haller and Owen Williams. And then we got Enriquez, Greg Rivera, Horney, Oman, and Fernando Silva.
Ivy, Booth, and Sierra will be rounding out the field.
Yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on 12th place Kayla Yakov.
Yeah, she was fast this morning, wasn't she?
And this is like her deal. I mean, every time we've seen her in the rain, she has just podium potential written all over her, especially with that Ducati. The way that the thing makes power. Yeah, there she is, number 19.
And, you know, you got to think about Matthew Schultz here. He didn't get a good start yesterday, and think about how much he made up. He was also quick this morning. Corey Alexander was quick this morning, as was Blake Davis. So a lot of our front runners in the dry were very quick again in the rain as well this morning.
Here we go. Supersport race number 2. In the rain, and revs are up. And off the line we go. And that Ducati got off the line well with PJ Jacobsen, even without any rider aids. But it looks like it's going to be a Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki of Ty Scott, number 70, who gets up. He gets into turn 1 first, but now we're going to wait and see how they go at the top of the hill.
Somebody stalled on the inside there. Didn't see it.
Corey Alexander, sorry, Jay.
Yep.
Corey Alexander into second spot as his teammate PJ Jacobsen goes to the top of the pile. So PJ Jacobsen on the Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel in first.
Yeah, this is why Corey wanted to get to second. Look what's happening. PJ Jacobsen got a little wide there on the exit, coming down out of those S's, but he gets it back on track. Greg, he's already got a couple second lead. Keep in mind, this guy here, World Superbike, World Supersport, British Superbike, and so on. He has won at so many different levels. And to have him back here, the only thing really missing from PJ's resume here in America is that MotoAmerica championship. He's been so close on so many different bikes, and right now he's got this Ducati out front, and that little look over his shoulder's got to give him so much confidence as well, seeing how much he's pulled away just right off the bat.
Corey Alexander on the Rahal Ducati Moto with roller die informing. So the first place bike and second place bike are teammates, and now it looks like it's going to be the 22 of Blake Davis battling it out with the 70 of Ty Scott for third place. So here comes that Yamaha of Davis through turn A, 10A and 10B goes the 15.
And this first lap, I think the conditions are a little bit better now than they were this morning when they went out this morning for their warm-up session. It was actually coming down pretty heavily. Right now the rain is more or less subsided. It's not raining, if it is at all, it's just sprinkling right now. So the conditions might be a little bit better and improving as the race goes on. Jake Lewis does a nice job slotting himself into 5th. We have somebody down, CJ LaRoche. Looks like he's down in the last corner, Greg, or that could be 10, turn 10 at the end of the back straight, but it looks like it's, yeah, he's got that bike up. But Corey Alexander and Blake Davis right now, lap and a half into this race, trying to keep PJ a little bit honest.
Corey Alexander sitting at about 6'3", a little bit over that. Nice long legs. He's able to get off the motorcycle. As the left part of your screen is going to be our first faller.
Turn 11 there. CJ LaRoche just tucked the front out of turn 11, right where guys start to pick the throttle up. People start to pick the throttle up there. The bike's leaned over. Now, you mentioned Corey's size, and in a condition like this, Greg, it can actually work to Corey's advantage. You know, if you watch him, it's going to be really, really easy for him to be able to feel for where the ground is. And Corey's got a really great ability on the edge of the tire as well. So for Corey, he's been able to run his teammate back down a little bit. PJ and Corey are both teammates, even though the colors of the bikes are a little bit different. They're coming out of the same truck. So right now, the two Ducatis out front with the Yamaha R6 of Blake Davis holding on to these guys running third.
Let's get down to the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa.
Greg, as you mentioned, the rain conditions obviously call for much different riding, and I talked to Josh Hayes, who has a wealth of knowledge not only riding in the rain but on a 600 specifically, and he said the thing about it is that you have to be very deliberate with all your inputs and movements, very smooth, especially on tip-in. The front is not forgiving at all. Furthermore, you have to really figure out what the new line is. So you see these clear shields gives our riders a better visibility to see what the different textures and surfaces are on the track and where there's water pooling and maybe where they'll have a little bit more grip. But to your point about Corey Alexander and his stature, Josh also mentioned he liked to ride the bike by hanging off it quite a bit more, and riders that are tall in stature like Corey Alexander and Matthew Schultz will have a little bit an easier time because they have that mobility and they are able to hang off the bike and take away some of that lean angle and really avoiding taking more risk than necessary.
And you'll notice that P.J. Jacobson, who's much smaller in stature than Corey, if you look at his knee pucks, on the edge of his knee as he gets a little bit sideways, he's got basically what we call a double stack knee puck. So it's double the thickness than normal, and they make those for the rain. But Corey Alexander, he doesn't seem to have it. Looks like he's just got normal sized knee pucks on because he's got that advantage of those long legs. There's a good shot of the knee pucks.
And he's watching this bike in front of him right now. P.J. Jacobson's bike is doing a lot more twitching, especially under acceleration. And the decel, you can see PJ's bike moving around just a little bit more than Corey's. Corey's bike actually looks pretty stable. So these three guys have definitely broke away from the field. 43.9 for Corey, 44s for the other two, and PJ and Blake Davis. The rest of the field, 45.1. I will say this, Kayla has moved herself from that third row grade. She's up to 6th now. She did a 45.1 as well.
And Yakov up to 6th around Maxi Girardo, who was one of our superstars from yesterday, but also huge props to Jake Lewis, the number 85, who's back in 5th place on his Altus Motorsports GSX-R 750, as now it looked like Davis was going to go for it, but Corey Alexander just lets off the lever and rolls through the corner, and then goes, hey, who is that?
Yeah, he heard that bike come up underneath him, and Blake did a nice job of just controlling that down the inside. And more to what Josh Hayes was telling Hannah, it is so important that all of your movements become a little bit more deliberate. We're just going to be smoother on the throttle, how we reach for the brake lever, where we're getting our downshifts done, the way we're tipping the bike in. And saying that, Greg, they're only about, what is it 10 seconds off? I'm trying to think what the actual
yeah, so the qualifying time was a 27.9, so 28.
Yeah, okay.
So they're 15
seconds off. So they're about 15 seconds off of dry times right now. And you can see it's still pretty wet down through here. It was much wetter earlier for a couple of our other races. PJ looks like he has picked it up this lap, especially through this first sector, and he has. He goes out a half a second quicker than Corey in that first split.
And keep in mind, for these Ducati Panigale V2s, there are no rider aids, so there's no traction control. And that really puts it all on the right wrist of the rider on the machine. Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki's Ty Scott, who you saw at the top of the show, crashed out yesterday. This has got to be a bit of a misery for Ty Scott. When you crash out, Jason, one of the things you want to do is get back on a dry racetrack and show that you have the speed. But a pass for second place. There goes Blake Davis, the number 22. On that N2 Racing bobblehead moto Yamaha R6, and he'll work his way into second spot.
Yeah, and he's really, really good on the brakes as well. So he's shown some really good prowess at the end of that back straightaway. And he was able to draft past Corey, and we'll see what kind of lap times these guys are turning on this lap. But Blake definitely looks like he's got some pace. I'm also super impressed with Jake Lewis, who we saw just now, tailing right behind Ty Scott there. So Jake Lewis on that Altus Motorsports GSX-R 750 also has these leaders in sight. 43.4 that time for PJ Jacobson, 43.7. Fastest rider on the track is in 7th place right now, so let's keep an eye out for Alfonso Linares, Greg. I don't know Alfonso at all, but he has been fast in the dry, and right now he's the quickest man on track.
Yeah, and he's right behind Kayla Yakov as well, who is matching the times of the leaders. Yakov in 6th place did a 43.5. Lewis in front of her did a 43.8. PJ Jacobson goes 43.493. So really, Jay, you look at these top 8 or 9, 10 bikes where Matthew Skoltz is back in 10th place, also doing 44s. These times continue to get a little quicker and a little quicker. There's a look at the 132, Alfonso Linares on the Ducati after setting the fastest lap of the race so far. But this is the situation where these riders race at such a high level, and they don't get to race in the rain all that much, that they're just continuing to feel out where's that traction. And Jay, it's really hard to explain how you can learn from lap to lap to lap, but it happens that way, and you just kind of know that you can push a little bit harder.
Yeah, and in these conditions more than anything, Greg, because track conditions are continuously changing lap after lap. And it's like, if it was to just have started raining, you're going to be very aware of where the track is puddling up and things like that. When it starts to dry and you're on these rain tires, you want to try to find those wet spots. Now, we're not going to have a problem with that in this race. It's going to stay, pretty wet all the way through. But in road racing, generally, the track condition usually stays the same when it's dry. But when it's wet, you have to just navigate your way through each lap, each corner individually, make mental notes of what the track is doing and how it's changing lap after lap. 42.7. These riders at the front are getting faster and faster as they go. 42.3 for Kayla Yakov. She is now the quickest rider on the track. As Mesa's down. Bummer. That looks also like turn 11, doesn't it?
It certainly does. For Stefano Mesa fans on the Tytler's Cycles Kawasaki, unfortunately for him, a bit of a miscue, and he looks like he's going to be out of this race. Up front, though, continues to be PJ Jacobsen on that Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel machine. And now they're starting to pull away from Corey Alexander. Blake Davis nestled there in second spot.
The scariest part about this is when we start to see these lap times continue to drop. You have to creep up onto the edge as far as your maximum performance. You're creeping up on that edge.
Oh,
Somebody
and it looks
else,
like Kayla Yakov is down.
Kayla has gone down on the exit of turn 5. Yeah. She was
after setting the fastest lap of the race, the 16-year-old hit the deck. She's trying to pick that motorcycle up, but that's a weird play. Probably a spin out of the rear generally that late in the
under
corner.
Acceleration, it's just going to spin up, but I was getting back to that. We just saw her do the fastest lap of the race, so you have to creep up on that edge ever so slightly because it is so easy to make a mistake in these conditions. You look at the top of your screen, Greg, and I would agree with you. This is probably just getting out with a little bit too much lean angle. That bike probably spun around on her, but up at the front, Blake Davis right now has ran down the leader and is right behind PJ now. And to your point earlier, they're just starting to break away from the 23 of Corey Alexander, who is going to have his hands full this next lap or two with Ty Scott.
There's a look at the 23, and there he is, Ty Scott. Really pacing himself right now, biding his time and not making any big chunk mistakes. But the impressive PJ Jacobsen out front setting the pace. And that's what it might be for Blake Davis. If Blake is saying, look, I'm comfortable at this pace, I don't think I can push any further, I'll let PJ lead. He doesn't have to just ride on his rear wheel. There's also spray coming off that back wheel. And so you want to be really smart when you're racing the rain, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be able to see, because this is physical. It may be, 10, 15 seconds slower than normal, but they're still out there hustling the bikes. They're huffing and puffing, and you can fog up that shield quickly. Not only with your breath inside the helmet, Jay, but also with the body heat. Fastest lap of the race now goes to Ty Scott at a 1:42 flat.
Yeah, and this guy here, Maxi Girardo, he was ahead of Matthew Schultz on this last lap when they came across our commentating position. You can see Matthew has made the pass and moving forward. Matthew's in 8th place at the moment, and he's continuing to get faster as the race goes as well.
And I spoke to Girardo's crew chief, Thibaut, and he was telling me some information about him. He's a Brazilian Superbike champ. He's also the 2014 and 2017 Supersport champ in Uruguay, so he's got a lot of experience riding on some different displacement motorcycles, but he has not have a lot of experience racing in the rain, and he's certainly trying to figure this track out in the dry, and then it's kind of another learning curve thrown at him to relearn the track in these conditions.
Yeah, he's doing a tremendous job right now, Hannah, and I think just this weekend alone, I remember seeing him at Daytona, and we've seen him in our Stock 1000, I think, too, in the past, Greg, and he's just having a great weekend. This guy was not having a great weekend to start, Greg. On Friday was a bit of a struggle, and good thing he's got many, many, many laps around here and a lot of experience, but Matthew Schultz found himself on the podium yesterday, and he's up to 7th as we go back down into turn 1.
And Matthew Schultz has always done pretty well in the wet. He's got a really good feel for in these conditions and some good confidence. And, I talked to the team. They said getting a full race under his belt and having those laps yesterday was really important for him to be able to learn this bike. The podium was really just the cherry on top. So now they have some data to build on moving forward. And the silver lining of this weather, if there is one, is that it's also really good for data for the team.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's now Corey Alexander has closed the gap in 3rd place and goes fastest lap of the race, Jay, at 1:41.655. So Alexander on the move. But yeah, we know for Matthew Schultz, who's back in 7th place. I mean, the first Superbike race he won was on a Stock 1000 bike when we had the 2 classes combined in the rain.
That was at Barber, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
It was at Barber. Now look at this. Jake Lewis, after Ty Scott did his fast lap, he dropped back quite a ways from Corey Alexander. And now Jake Lewis is trying to get his big frame tucked in behind that screen there, and he's looking to go by Ty Scott.
Oh! Wow. Blake Davis goes down. What a job by PJ Jacobsen to grab that brake lever and not crash and avoid Blake Davis. So Poor Blake Davis, what a run he had. Too much front brake in these very slippery conditions, but tip of the cap to PJ Jacobsen for avoiding hitting Blake Davis.
I was saying how hard he is braking. You could see it by the fork travel he was using coming down into turn 10, and here it is, Greg. And you got to remember, he still gets a little sniff of that draft, but he's trying to go down the inside and literally just loses the front. Look at PJ. What a tremendous job, like you say, by PJ Jacobsen to avoid that. That's a guy with a lot of experience, like I said. And PJ was very lucky there that that bike didn't take him down. Looking at the times, 42.4 for PJ, 42.2. How about a 40.9? Matthew Scults has all of a sudden found 40.9. He's found a rhythm, and he's, what, almost 2 seconds, you know, quicker. He's about a second quicker than Linares, who is in 5th just up the road in front of him.
This puts Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsports GSXR 750 in 3rd place for the moment. But there you can see Ty Scott off in the distance. Linares, and then Scults is somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 seconds behind PJ, and he's going to be about 9 seconds back from Jake Lewis.
This guy's on the move, isn't he?
By the way, in that replay we saw from the 22 bike, it looked like he got right in the seam, and where he crashed was in a very slight puddle right on the seam. It's one of those things that just can catch you out, and a little bit too much lever. But PJ Jacobsen now.
He's dropped the hammer this lap. He's a full second quicker than Corey in the first split. Just like that, he's opened up 1.4 seconds on this lap over the 23 of Corey Alexander. PJ Jacobsen right now is on his personal best lap of the race. You can also see Corey's visor. See how it's just fogging up just a little bit there? That is also another condition you have to deal with sometimes in these races. Here's PJ coming out of turn 7. Corey got it a little bit loose. That's why he's lost some time in that second split. So we're already starting to get into some of the tail enders. We're starting to lap people as the 3 leaders go by someone on the front straightaway there, and you can see Jake Lewis is continuing to go quick. Matthew Scults with another fast lap of the race, a 40.5. So Matthew's literally gone from doing 42s, 43s straight into the 40s. And Greg, I mean, he's almost a full second quicker than the leader right now. We have 6 laps to go, and Matthew's 10 seconds back. He can still see himself fighting for this podium.
Yeah, he backs that fastest lap up a lap ago with another one, 40.525 for Scults. There he is.
Wow, Linares, he's on the back of Ty Scott now, and it looks like they're trying to go past Joel Ullman there as they get through turn 5. Joel gets his leg out to let these guys know, go ahead and go through. But all of a sudden, you got this 3-way battle for 4th place now.
So Scults on the bright motorcycle right there, the number 11, that's the Strack Racing Yamaha R6. Passes for position on the 132, Linares.
It's going to be really interesting to talk to Matthew after this race and what he found this late in, because at the beginning of the race I was watching him just kind of lumbering back there in 10th, 11th, 8th, and then next thing you know he's put this crazy charge on as now Jake Lewis has got himself to the back of the 23 of Corey Alexander.
And again, Jay, if you look at the stature of these 2 riders, you know, I've said it for many years. I've said it for many years. I just think that when you're a larger rider, psychologically you feel like you have an advantage in the rain. A guy like PJ Jacobsen, you can chalk this lead and what he's doing right now to talent and a lot of experience in Europe, without question.
Years of experience.
But you have to say that a Corey Alexander, Jake Lewis, you know, Tyler Scott, these riders have very similar amount of time in the rain.
Yep, Matthew Scults did make that pass, but you're exactly right. You know, racing in the rain, even in the dry, it's all about loading the bike and making sure you're distributing that the same way. In a condition like this, when you're a little bit bigger and taller or even heavier, I feel like it almost does give you a little bit of an advantage. That said, PJ is just squashing that idea right off the bat, but I think it is because all the experiences he's had, probably knows a setup that he likes when it gets to be wet, and he's ridden a lot of tracks in the world in the rain.
4.5 laps to go. Matthew Scults in 4th place ahead of these 2. This is the battle for 5th and 6th between Alfonso Linares in the 132 and Tyler Scott on the 70. Now for Scults, Jason, he's 11.5 seconds back from the lead, but with the laps running out, it would take some Hail Mary, which he's trying to do, as Scults just goes Sector 1 best split of the race at a 40.2 40.260 to PJ's 42.65. I mean, that's a full 2.4 seconds quicker.
It's a lot, and I don't
just
know.
one sector.
PJ must have had a problem in the first sector. That's, you know, because look at how much it's closed up. These guys behind, so something happened to PJ, whether it might have been some traffic or back markers like we see here coming down into turn 10, because there is Matthew Schultz. So PJ might have got held up a little bit down through the S's for him to have lost that much time. Corey runs his fastest second split, and Corey Alexander is on his way to running his personal best lap time of the race. That's going to be a 40.7 for Corey Alexander as he goes through.
Track Racing Yamaha R6, a perfect scenario weekend for Matthew Schultz, who just goes 140.486, fastest lap of the race again for Matthew Schultz. And perfect scenario meaning if you're going to get off of a superbike for a decade, come to Supersport, these middleweight sport bikes. And if there's no better place to learn than your home track, I don't know what is. It's been an up and down weekend for them, but he's done a great job, but he's in 4th place. The 15 PJ Jacobsen continues to lead the way, carving their way through lap traffic. There goes Corey Alexander. And Jason, you mentioned it, a 140.752 for Corey, his personal best of the race. And that puts a little bit of daylight between him and Jake Lewis. Now the question is, with 3.5 to go, how much push do you have if you're Jake Lewis? How much do you want 2nd place versus 3rd place, that podium? And you can see the rain is still falling a little bit on the back straightaway. From Hannah's perspective on the front straightaway, it's definitely lightened up.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely
this track is so soaked at this point, it's not going to make a difference in this race.
No, we're going to have 3 to go this next lap. And what I'm more concerned with right now, I think Jake Lewis would be absolutely tickled with a podium here. Is the 85. He would love to try to get up there and win, but this is where you start. Now they've done all these laps. You kind of know what you have underneath you. You kind of know how hard to push. You've had moments in certain places. And for Jake right now, I'm sure his board is probably saying +7 back to Matthew Schultz. He's going to keep his head down, keep focusing on those guys ahead. And if any of them have problems, he's going to be there for the strike. Corey Alexander just goes fastest lap of the race at a 40.4. PJ Jacobsen 40.7, but you can see that lead has definitely closed down a little bit.
One of the things we've seen from PJ is a little bit of wheel spin coming out of turn number 5 and some other corners as he's managing this rear tire all with his right wrist, no electronic aids. However, the question is for Alexander, who's dropped back twice now in this race, does he have enough tire left and enough speed to push? He just went 0.3 of a second faster than his teammate, but the question is, with 2.5 laps to go, what else does he have in the tank? So for PJ Jacobsen, the number 15 on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel, trying to hold off his teammate Corey Alexander on the 23 on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Roller Die Informing, and then the Altus Motorsports Jake Lewis. What a podium that would be, and what a weekend it would be debuting in MotoAmerica Supersport for the Ray Hall Ducati Moto team.
Yeah, we just said that about Jake Lewis, and he just went half a second quicker than the 2 guys in front of him in the first split.
Wow.
So, yeah, and this is because the track conditions are definitely getting better, no question. Matthew Schultz right now, his charge is kind of faded because he's just a little bit too far behind those guys. But a podium yesterday and a 4th today to start his season off isn't going to be bad for the number 11.
A good look at Matthew Schultz. It's almost insulting, Jason, to call Matthew Schultz a rain master because he's so good in the dry as well.
Correct.
But definitely when it rains, something special happens with Matthew Schultz. He has incredible feel, and of course, he's been with his crew chief for so long. The same crew chief that he had at Westby Racing moved over to Strack Racing with him, and so his crew chief, Ed Sullivan, knew exactly what kind of setup to put in the motorcycle, because you definitely do things with the suspension to soften the bike up in these conditions.
Yeah, and you can see here our leaders now. All right, this is the worst place that PJ could have caught anybody. Absolute worst place. Coming down this hill, Corey's going to have to try to make quick work of the 131, which is Chuck Ivey also. So Corey's going to have to try to get by here as well to try to go with Corey. And look what it's done. It's allowed Jake Lewis to get up the back. Corey gets held up really badly in turn 5. And so now that gap that looked like it was going to shrink has just opened up completely again. And Jake Lewis now is on the back And keep in mind, Chuck's got 2 guys right in front of him that he's racing as well, so he's trying to do his best to pick up a couple guys himself. But these guys just caught the tail enders here in just the wrong spot, that's all.
Here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, there are probably 2 or 3 spots on this racetrack that are one line that are really difficult to catch lap traffic in. Obviously, this back straightaway is not one of them, but look at how big the gap is after that, really, from the S's all the way out of turn number 7. And now PJ with a sizable lead as we are going to head off towards the white flag. 10A, 10B. And Corey again.
Just getting these guys. Corey's just getting them kind of in the wrong spots, that's all. But PJ did a really masterful job and he was able to do what he needed to do. The pass around the back marker coming down through turn 4 is a difficult one. He should be able to be pretty clear sailing from this point on once he gets past that last guy. Corey Alexander now 1.7 back. Matthew Schultz ran the fastest lap of the race 2 laps in a row. Matthew goes 39.4.
3 laps, 4 laps in a row
3 or 4 laps in a row, yeah.
139.445 for Matthew Schultz, but PJ Jacobson does not need to do that to maintain this lead, and you can see the gap now back to Corey Alexander.
Corey's stuck again, it looks like there. So, yeah, just kind of wrong place, wrong time. Corey and Jake both get by coming down through the turn 4. Now Corey's going to have to worry about Jake Lewis doing something down that back straightaway to try to put him in a position to try to take over 2nd place.
So Matthew Schultz continues to set the world on fire here at Road Atlanta. But for him, it's 4th place, and he's just 4.5 seconds off that podium, barring any disaster from Jake Lewis, Corey Alexander, or PJ Jacobson. It looks like he's going to be off the box, the hometown favorite. But for PJ Jacobson, what a performance to get out front early and to lead every lap of this race. And what an accordion it was. And Corey Alexander put up quite a fight, closed the gap late in the race, but some lap traffic allowed PJ Jacobson to get himself a little bit of breathing room. But this is a rain race, and it's never over until you cross the line where the checkered flag is flying. But for PJ Jacobson, he knows that his Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel Panigale V2 has taken him home. The final quarter for PJ on the final lap of the final Supersport race here at Road Atlanta. And PJ Jacobson takes it home and takes the win. And coming across the stripe, his teammate Corey Alexander on the Rahal Ducati Moto with roller die informing in 2nd spot. Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsport machine in 3rd. And Strack Racing's Matthew Schultz in his Supersport debut here in 2024, able to take it home in 4th place. And Alfonso Linares on the Ducati, Jason.
Top 5.
Top 5 for the 132.
Well yeah,
and
really
we're going to be keeping an eye on that rider throughout the course of the season, because for the 132, able to defeat riders like Ty Scott, Maxi Girardo, David Anthony, as we still await a lot of riders to come across. And there's the race pace, Jay.
Yeah, you can see the track just continued to get better, right? So 41.2, 40.8, then back into the 40s on lap 11 and 12. And last lap, 39.8 for PJ Jacobson on the last lap. So track is definitely starting to improve and get faster.
So 2 of 18 races for the season in the books. And without question, you've got to look at the 15 and say, now we're looking at one of our championship favorites. So PJ Jacobson gets to stand on the podium with his teammate Corey Alexander and Jake Lewis. Can't wait to hear from PJ how this wet weather race went for him. What a job.
What was a great result for that new Rahal Ducati Moto team yesterday, with PJ Jacobson being on the top of the box, Roger. It's turned into an even better one today as they take over the top 2 spots.
Yeah, what a difference, you know, just three weeks to a month has made for this whole team at Daytona. Talking about how they weren't ready yet, and be able to come here and you know, just make those changes that they made, and you can just see they know they have the riders. They knew they just had to make a couple personnel changes, and he's able to do that. And they got a really good rider. PJ has a lot of experience. He left Daytona a little deflated, and I think now he's got to be feeling pretty good. And just wet or dry, all conditions, it seems like PJ is really fast. And Corey Alexander as well, all weekend, even in the dry, was really fast.
And that save that PJ Jacobson had when Blake Davis went down right in front of him, that was that was a scary moment.
And that was just some of those things. You talk about reflexes. I mean, he did that before he could even think about what was going on. And Blake was riding really well. You know, just for as young as Blake is, he's just good in all conditions as well. Rain. He went across that that seam there. I know it happens a lot there. It's really hard because you're trying to make a pass there on the inside, and then when you move over, you kind of go across that seam, and unfortunately for him, he went down.
PJ now pulled into the podium area. You can hear through those Audio Technica microphones down there that just the excitement in his voice, and he was on it the whole time, he said, Roger.
Yeah, on it the whole time, and that's because Corey, and then Corey had Jake closing the gap down on him, and then Matthew Schultz was coming there toward the end of the race, but PJ is just on it the whole time, and you can see the way the crew, they're all down there celebrating and what it means for that team. You know, Daytona, we mentioned a lot how it was tough, and you can see like the relief on all the riders and the crew, and they're going to be tough to beat all year.
Matthew Schultz, you mentioned he finished this race in that 4th position, started in 11th. He moved up and kind of got stuck in that 7th, 8th position. Did he wait too long to push it, you think?
Yeah, for whatever reason, he doesn't have a lot of laps on the Supersport bike in the wet, but it just took him, it seemed like 5 or 6 laps to get going, and was kind of stuck where you said 7th, 8th, 9th there early on. But when he figured it out and he got moving, he definitely had the speed to be at the front, just waited too late. Talk about mistakes, qualifying bad. It kind of started on the back foot.
Yes, we mentioned he missed the first 2 sessions this weekend, the practice and that first qualifier, but these were valuable laps as they will be out for the full season. He did finish on the podium yesterday, but look at PJ Jacobsen. I mean, just the relief on his face, you can see it at Daytona when they were behind, and it was frustration, a new team, and those growing pains, but they have certainly come back to race strong.
Just see the relief at Daytona. You know, he just was so deflated. And then at Daytona, you're thinking, man, are we going to be able to change this right now? The season's about to start. They made this big of an improvement in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We have another 3 weeks off before the next race. How much more is this team going to improve?
Well, they're just going to keep gelling together. You have to remember, this program didn't come together until October. We saw the announcement, Graham Rahal and Bobby Rahal, and they all got together and said that they were going to come out here and bring all of the passion that they take to all of their other racing programs, and they certainly have done that.
And they've done that, and they've been successful, and now they're already successful in MotoAmerica.
All right, we're going to get it down to Hannah Lopa. We're going to send it next door first to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Welcome back to Supersport Race number 2 here in Braselton, Georgia, Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, with PJ Jacobsen taking a 2.7-second victory over Corey Alexander and Jake Lewis on a very rainy and wet racetrack. And here's a look at those full results. You can see Jake Lewis 3.7, Matthew Schultz 9.9 after going fastest lap.
Yep.
Look at the 132 though, Jay. You got to keep an eye on him, as well as Gerardo in 7th place. But Hannah is down in victory lane with our winner.
PJ Jacobsen starting off the Supersport season perfect with double victories on the weekend. PJ, what does it require from you to back up yesterday's victory with another in such rainy conditions?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be like a really tough race today, even though we had a good morning warm-up. But I knew Corey, Jake, Kayla, Schultz, everybody was going to kind of be there in the race. But yeah, I just kept putting my head down and stuff and tried to stay out front and run a consistent race. But Corey was like putting so much pressure on me, and then I guess Jake was putting so much pressure on Corey. So I thought the lap times were like really, really fast, and I was like, oh man, this is kind of at the limit, you know? So it was getting kind of sketchy there at the end, and I was just like, hopefully I make it back to this winner circle or where we're at.
How much does it mean to you and to the team, being such a new venture into motorcycle road racing, to have such success here so early on in the season?
It's been absolutely great. Since Daytona, we changed some things around. I can't thank Rahal Ducati enough, Expel, Roller Die, Richie, our team manager. He's done a great job putting everything together. So my whole crew on my side, it's been awesome. So I can't thank the whole entire team enough. They've been working their butts off. So all of them deserve all of this, you know. So I can't thank all of them enough.
Congrats, PJ. Second place today is Corey Alexander. a really impressive ride by Corey. Always you do pretty well in the rain, but how gratifying was this podium result after how close you were yesterday?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest with you, coming into this weekend, this whole year as a I don't know, rookie against Supersport rider, I wasn't really sure what to anticipate, and Daytona wasn't too easy on us, but this weekend kind of came in with a new slate. Like PJ was saying, we made a lot of changes. The whole team, the whole Ducati Moto team has just done so much work in these last 4 weeks. I wish people could understand how much has gone into it, but special thank you to Richie and Ben and Graham and Brittany and everyone. Just you know, for us to be 1-2 up here is really, really amazing. But yeah, after yesterday, I knew it was going to be difficult if we were in the dry to be able to do anything with our deficit due to my size. But we got two big boys up here with Jake Lewis and I, and you know, we're out here doing it for the big boys. So thanks again to everyone, the whole team. Roller Die wouldn't be here. Wish Ray could be here to hang out with us, but hopefully he'll be at the next one. Dell's Flooring, Ride HGMC, the whole Garage Ocho guys, Alpine Stars, my guy Heath over there taking care of us in the rain, Big Bo over at Arai, just everybody. You know, I didn't think I was going to be up on the podium again for a little while. I thought it was going to take us a little bit longer to get this thing figured out, but hopefully we got some more work to do to stay up here. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Corey. Congratulations. And rounding out your Supersport podium, Jake Lewis back with Altus. Jake, tell me how you were able to make your way through the field and how much focus that required in order to stay upright and bring it home to the podium.
Yeah, I got a good start today. Usually my starts are complete shit on this bike, so it was nice to go up to turn one and I think fifth, and I was just kind of sitting there behind Tyler, and the front three guys kind of got away from us, and then unfortunately Blake crashed going down into 10, and these two slowed down just a touch, and I got by Tyler, and I was just chipping, and just being smart. You know, I was quick through the whole first half of the track, and then this last turn I wasn't going down into first gear, and it was just lugging too much coming into second, but I would rather play it safe than sorry and get out of here with some points, and I'm happy with the weekend. You know, yesterday didn't go exactly the way I expected, but it was nice to reward the Altus Motorsports team with a third today, and I just got to say a big thank you to George and the whole Altus Motorsports crew for letting me get the opportunity to ride the Supersport class again, and a big thanks to my crew guys, Rick Matheny and Will. You know, they've been busting their butt on this bike for me, and we're chipping away at it. And a big thanks to all of our other sponsors, BioJet from Steve Main, Bell Helmets, 4SR Leathers, Alpine Stars, M4 Exhaust, my whole family, girlfriend, and just everyone else who supports me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Congrats.
Yes. Corey Alexander and Jake Lewis, the Clydesdale class. That's what I'm calling it, the big boys. But PJ Jacobsen is going to enjoy his celebrations coming up shortly. We're going to step away. Our coverage for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and Supersport Race number 2 will continue after this.
One of the things, Roger, that we've heard in a lot of these interviews over at the podium area today is just the thanks to the teams and all of the changes that have to be executed when the weather changes as drastically as it did from yesterday to today. Those teams back in the paddock, they put in the work.
Not only that, I mean, you just think about what the Rahal boys have did since Daytona, all the work that they've got done, all the sleepless nights, and you know, that's what it's about, these crew members. I mean, they put so much into this, the team, the sponsors, your crew chiefs. They spend so much time away, you know, from their families, and they just love it, and this is what they do it for, to get on the podium. And it's great when these riders realize the effort that the team and the crew and that everybody's putting in, and can give them thanks. And even if it's not on the podium, whatever your best is that day, that's how you reward those guys for their hard work.
And PJ Jacobsen now making his way up there to claim the hardware for that hard-fought victory today. I love the cheer, being able to hear the celebration of all the fans that make their way out there. And that's one of the things that is unique to every race that we go to. If you're here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, you too can come down into the paddock, and at the end of the next race, that screen that you see behind it, you'll be able to watch all of the action from right there, and then you can watch the riders come and celebrate.
And you get to hear them, you get close enough where you can hear them talk to their crews as soon as they come in, what they say exactly when they turn their bikes off. And there's not too many other sporting events that will let you get that close to the athletes.
You see the photos now being taken. What are these conversations like? What do you think they're talking about, Roger?
Yeah, probably about the track and the race, and you know, everybody had moments and what happened to so-and-so, and just catching up.
We're going to go ahead and send it back next door to Greg and Jason.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Podium celebrations for P.J. Jacobsen. Yeah, that's Ben Spies up there, accepting the trophy for the team because, you know, he's part of that team.
Yeah, pretty good guy to have part of the team.
But you know what? One of the guys we're talking about was Matthew Skoltz in his debut weekend, and he had a great one, and he's with Hannah right now.
For Matthew Skoltz, another impressive performance, finishing 4th in this race. But overall on the weekend, how crucial was it for you to get yesterday's race laps and a full race today under your belt?
Yeah, obviously we didn't get any laps in Friday practice, so yesterday's drive session was as crucial for us to get some data. And unfortunately, today it was pouring down. First time in the wet on a Supersport bike in 10 years, so I had to figure that out. We changed the clutch before the start of this race, and unfortunately I kind of fobbed it a little bit and ended up going like backwards and dropped a lot of spots and just got stuck in the wrong crowd in the first couple of corners. And I mean, I was miles and miles behind, but just slowly picked him off and got up to 4th and just kind of ran out of laps. But I don't think I was catching them towards the end there. All these guys are riding really, really quickly, but I think it's going to be a hell of a championship from here, and just looking forward to the battle. We go to Barber next, and that's my favorite track on the calendar. So I'm looking to put on the top of the box there for sure.
It seemed like you were starting to find some time at the end of the race. Talk about the conditions or what the bike was doing underneath you, if something just clicked for you as far as setup goes.
I don't really know. The lap timer wasn't working, so I don't know. You know, if I was going faster or slower. I was just pushing as much as I could. I had a few front end pushes, a few like, you know, spin ups, but I was just trying to push and just trying to do something. And when I saw there was 2 laps to go, I kind of settled in because I didn't want to crash it. And then I think it's going to be a pretty long season. And I think if we're looking at the championship, consistency is going to be a major factor for us.
What is it that needs to come together in order for you to be able to be consistent and make a really valiant effort towards that championship title?
I think that my consistency is relatively good at this point now. I just need to not start so far back and practice starts and just not go backwards in the first couple corners. I feel like my speed's there. Just need to sort out qualifying, I guess.
Really strong showing from Matthew Skoltz and the track racing team this weekend, guys.
Yeah, be on alert because next time we're at the racetrack at Barber, this dude's going to be ripping.
Yeah, and he, you know, like, it's weird because it's almost like he didn't really get a fair shot this weekend because of his Friday, even though he got to the front of the field yesterday. I think that when he gets that Good Friday out of the way at Barber, he's going to be right up there with those guys battling.
All right, our coverage of Supersport Race number 2 will continue from Braselton, Georgia, and the wet Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in a moment.
And you're looking now at the grid here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta as the Steel Commander Superbike category is now making their way to the end of the sighting lap, finding those grid positions. But Roger, what I'm noticing and looking at these pictures and looking out the window right now, it doesn't seem that rain is falling.
No, rain is definitely not falling. And just looking out the window, the track is still wet. There's still a couple puddles. But if the sun was actually to pop out, this track is one of those tracks that will dry really quick. So we'll have to see what it is. These Superbike races are so long. We still got some time before it starts. But if it gets windy or the wind picks up or the sun comes out, this track could really change a lot, especially during the race. Once they started, you can see how wet it is now. These are the tough spots for the crews and for the riders whenever you have to make a decision. They're not there yet, but whenever you know it's wet right now, but what's it going to be like, you know, Superbike race being 30 minutes, what's it going to be like then? All the bikes out there. But right now I think they're pretty set, but if the sun was to come out, things would change quick.
The clouds certainly have gotten lighter. The sky is getting brighter. We have a third member of our broadcast team, Laurette Nicole. She's down there in the paddock area. She says that the rain is still coming. It's pretty light right now, but it's a 2.5-mile racetrack. It could be raining on one section, not on the other. We still need to wrap up the rest of the Supersport coverage. So before we get too deep into the Superbike class, I'm going to send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
We're back, Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta in Brazelton, Georgia. It's still wet outside, but we've seen the forecast, and it looks like the sun might be breaking through here in about 15 or 20 minutes, but that doesn't matter for race number 2, is it? With soggy Jason and PJ Jacobsen, though, he just had it going on.
He was masterful again today, was PJ, winning yesterday's race in the dry and showing that he's going to be a problem in the wet all year long as well. Blake Davis made an early charge here to get himself up behind PJ Jacobsen. As you can see, Corey Alexander at this time was behind his teammate, but the 22 was on a charge, as was Ty Scott, and this man, Jake Lewis, got a great start, as you heard him say, and that really helped him. So Blake Davis, at this point, gets past Corey Alexander, but coming down into turn 10 a couple laps later, makes a mistake here, Greg. He just loses the front. He will be back at Barber fighting, as well as the 11 that we just spoke to. Matthew Schultz found himself just running fast lap after fast lap. The battle really became for second and third, as late in the race, back markers became an issue for these guys, and that separated the race a little bit, but PJ Jacobsen would go on to win over Corey Alexander and Jake Lewis.
PJ Jacobsen is a rain cheat code without question. He just has it going on. And of course, with the double victory in our first race weekend, it's a total of 50 points for PJ. Corey Alexander in second place, 17 behind, then Matthew Schultz in third. And he talked about consistency in this championship. Unfortunately for Blake Davis with that DNF, he slides himself down to fifth. And the 161 and the 132 well placed in 6th and 7th, respectively. And that's going to be really interesting. Well, Jason, let's talk about what we've seen. We've gotten a dry race, and we've gotten this soggy race, and now we have, what, 16 races to go in this championship. What do you think?
You know, last year when we knew that PJ Jacobsen was going to Ducati, we knew that it was going to be, you know, he was going to be good. I feel like that bike fits him really well. Now they've got some things that have changed within the team, and that team's only going to get stronger now for them to come out and win what is essentially our first series, our first round here. I know these bikes race in Daytona, but our first round, this guy here, PJ Jacobsen's going to be around all year and trying to fight for every victory we have.
It's the stack field in Supersport, the deepest that we've seen since MotoAmerica began. More manufacturers and more equipment and more talent. What's going to happen the rest of the season? We can't wait to find out. Our next stop's got to be Barber Motorsports Park in a couple weeks' time. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. We will see you then.